or staying with the Fed policy at the time, it was allowing for to continue to approve Bitcoin and other digital assets. Clearly
okay, Dan, your connection with us is quite spotty. So, I just want to get one last question in there. But I wonder, do you have a price target for Bitcoin, either short or long term, for the year?
As a trader, I would say that we're going to where we're at today.
Could not get that, but Dan, sorry, your connection really cut up on us. But maybe can you just repeat your price forecast?
If I take a position to where we're in this year, I would somewhere between 10 to 15% of exactly where we're at right now. So somewhere between as low as 40 at 60,000.
All right, Dan, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate your insights. That was HXRO CEO Dan Gunsberg. Coming up, El Salvador President Nayib Bukele, good or bad for Bitcoin? That's next. Hi, I'm Christine Lee.
Zach Seward.
I'm Michael Casey.
I'm Christy Harkin.
I'm Isaiah Jackson.
I'm Serena Lynn.
Hey, this is Will Foxley.
I'm Teresa Santos.
Hi, I'm Lawrence Lewitton.
Hi, I'm Dorian Wayne.
I'm Nicholas Day.
Hi, I'm Kevin Worth.
My name is Naomi Brockwell.
I'm Jordan Muthra.
Hi, I'm Galen Moore.
Hi, I'm Brad Count.
I'm Pete Paschal.
Hi, I'm Jen Sanasi. You're watching.
And you are watching.
And you're watching CoinDesk TV.
All right, welcome back. El Salvador President Nayib Bukele tweeting, breaking, El Salvador DGAF doesn't give an F. In response to ratings agency Moody's downgrading his country's credit rating due to its risky Bitcoin trades, which Bukele boasts are done on his phone while naked. The El Salvador president's irreverence was met with praise and jeers. Praise from Blockstream's Samson Mao, Kraken's Dan Held, and users in general remarking, how amazing is that tweet? By contrast, economist Peter Schiff exclaiming, that's your attitude? You're bragging about a credit downgrade. Do you expect your creditors to have the same DGAF attitude when you default? Since you couldn't care less about your lenders, you likely have the same attitude about your people. They need to vote you out of office. Another user, Bobby Two Taps, responding, Peter, these are the same people that didn't downgrade any of the creditors prior to the 2008 crash. So what the F do they know? Touche. Bukele embodies freedom from the institutional status quo, new ideas, and the go-it-alone attitudes that libertarian Bitcoiners love. But is Bukele the Bitcoin hero we should be cheering about? It at least deserves some reflection following a new report showing strong evidence that President Bukele has sought to undermine freedom of speech in his country. According to a joint investigation by Salvadoran news outlet El Faro, Toronto-based Citizen Lab, and digital rights nonprofit Access Now, the cell phones of at least 22 of El Faro's journalists were infected with spyware known as PEGASUS over the past 2 years. Other journalists and human rights activists were also targeted. CoinDesk's David Norris noting, quote, Bukele's move to adopt Bitcoin as an alternative to the US dollar in El Salvador has great potential for freeing the developing world from the yoke of the global financial establishment. His authoritarian behavior is anathema to the cyber-libertarian ideals that underpin cryptocurrency. Joining us now to discuss is John Scott-Railton, senior researcher at the Citizen Lab. Hello there, John. Thanks for joining us. So before we get into this investigation that you guys did, what would you say about the appeal of Nayib Bukele? He seems to be a charismatic leader who has been hailed as a Bitcoin hero and has a majority of support in El Salvador.
He's got a lot of the trappings of a Bitcoin hero, and he has a lot of the trappings of a populist. Unfortunately, outside of the conversation around Bitcoin, he has been presiding over an authoritarian slide in that country. that people who are just watching the crypto story of El Salvador may not be familiar with. And that's where this latest investigation comes in. It basically shows that a whole slice of what we call civil society in El Salvador, journalists and others who've reported critically on the president, have gotten targeted with this extremely sophisticated piece of spyware. Obviously, that kind of contradicts the image of a liberty-promoting president, but it's totally in keeping with the authoritarian flip side of Bukele's charm.
So let's get into your report. What exactly were your findings?
So this investigation, as you know, targeted core of 65 because what they do were multiply and some is spyware, which is only sold to governments, made by an Israeli company called NSO Group. The nub of this is this extensive and persistent and frankly jaw-droppingly intense targeting in some cases of these journalists and others. It's a really bad sign for a government's commitment to freedom to see this kind of thing happening.
So how do you square up this dichotomy? Someone who says he's fighting for El Salvador against global institutions, but also surveillancing journalists, critics, people in this country whose job it is to hold him accountable.
Well, I think this is something that people who are watching this and people who are thinking a lot about the future of crypto should be thinking about. Now, our report does not definitively say Bukele did this. What we say is there's strong circumstantial evidence, and we lay it out in that report indicating that El Salvador is probably responsible for what we saw. What I would encourage you to do, if you're concerned about the future of crypto, that means that you think a lot about liberty and you think a lot about the liberating powers of crypto when it comes to the arbitrary power and surveillance power of the state. What has been happening in El Salvador on the technical side tells a very concerning story. It tells the story of a state that is clearly deeply invested in monitoring its critics, and in many cases pairing that surveillance with physical threats and harassment. And I'll say something else. If you're a Bitcoin enthusiast and you're headed to El Salvador, I would be worried about the security of your phone and the privacy of your devices at this point.
Is President Bukele an authoritarian in your view?
I think that I defer to the political scientists and others who are looking at this case a bit on this. But what I will say is clearly this is somebody who's not afraid even to sort of make light of how many actions he is taking. And I think many countries kind of know what that being tied to authoritarianism looks like. This is, or I think the sheen is wearing on people.
All right, John, thank you so much for joining us and appreciate your insights and great investigation. That was Citizen Lab senior researcher John Scott-Railton. All right, that's it for All About Bitcoin. I'm your host, Christine Lee. We'll do it all over again tomorrow at 3 o'clock in New York. Also join us tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. for First Mover. You're watching CoinDesk TV.